मालासुधा कुम्भविबोधमुद्रा विद्याविराजत्करवारिजाता अपारकारुण्यसुधाम्बुराशिं शारदाम्बां प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यं शङ्कारूपेण मच्चित्तं पङ्के गतमबोध्यया किङ्करीगस्य सामाया शङ्कराचार्यमाश्रिये प्रह्लादवरदो देवो यो नृसिंहः परो हरिः नृसिंहोपासकं नित्यं तं नृसिंहगुरुं भजे श्री सच्चिदानंद शिवाभिनव्यनृसिंहभारत्य पितान् यतीन्द्रान् विद्यानिधीन् मन्त्रनिधीन् सदात्मनिष्ठान् भजे मानवशम्भुरूपान् सदात्मध्याननिरतं विषयेभ्यः परान्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीं विवेकिनं महाप्रज्ञं धैर्योदारक्षमानिधिं सदाभिनवपूर्वं तं विद्यातीर्थगुरुं भजे अज्ञानां जाह्नवीतीर्थं विद्यातीर्थं विवेकिनां सर्वेषां सुखदं तीर्थं भारतीतीर्थमाश्रिये विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विदुशेखरभारती. Offer this samarpanam at the lotus feet of Jyeshta Mahasannidhanam Jagadguru Srimad Abhinavvidhyatita Mahaswamigal, Mahasannidhanam Jagadguru Shri Shri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamigal, Sannidhanam Jagadguru Shri Shri Vidushekara Bharati Mahaswamigal. Also offer humble pranams at the feet of my Manasika Vedanta Guru Shri Jnanananda Bharati Swami. Dear Guru Bandhus and Sishyas of the Math, it's a delight to connect with you all through this program. A program which personally I long to be there physically after having Acharya's darshanam and to interact with you all. Due to professional and occupational hazards, I had to stay back in Delhi, and thanks a lot to Gautam and our Murli sir for facilitating me the alternate option of reaching out to you through this video. A humble apologies for not being there physically. Nothing will match that. Yet, this golden opportunity should not be missed, and therefore chose this alternative route of reaching out to you. Came to know that you have been hearing talks of extremely intense and talks filled with erudition and scholarship by various people. I had always confessed, which I would do even now, I am not a trained scholar, nor a person who has erudite knowledge over Vedanta. As much a struggling soul like each one of you. And therefore, when it comes to discussing or sharing views on Vedanta, always preferred the option of discussing how struggling souls perceive Vedanta and how attempts are being made to catch up whatever has been lost all these births. So it is more to do with experiential sharing of knowledge rather than knowledge of containing scholarship and erudition. Therefore, these are nothing but discussion points or talking points of how when one goes through the process, assimilating it from the experience of various such struggling souls. So, this is the approach this talk would have for the next few minutes. Let's take two sets of expressions and try to identify where are we actually placed. This journey, this talk for the next few minutes is a journey in pursuit of understanding, are we closer to the material life or are we closer to the spiritual life? And what are the tests that one may have to take it in the course or in the path of this great, unique, holy, sacred journey? So let's take two sets of expressions broadly, the 3Ds: desire, duty, and decision making. And the second set of expression, we will call it as SDK: Satya, Dharma, and Karma. If we are going to be taught that you should have done something else in your life as ordained and you have moved away too far, it's a fact which we need to accept. But God and Guru are embodiments of mercy. So they still give us opportunity to strive hard to come back to the mainstream of spiritual life. So, one thing is inevitable in our life cycle. I'm assuming that people who are listening to it are people who have been in active life and continue to be in active life, and they still have the passion and thirst to pursue spiritual life. If that is the case, we must understand clearly that we are caught in a work style and in a lifestyle which makes us extremely busy and extremely tired. The degree may vary. So, there is absolutely no time for us to pursue the ordained prescriptions by scriptures. Are we then to give up and merge into this material world of ocean of samsara? Are we to be written off as people unfit for spiritual life? In our humble view, the answer is a clear no. Wherever we are, we should still attempt to walk in the path of spiritual life. Is this possible? Since our core essence of our lifestyle is work, today leisure has no meaning, other priorities and interests have no relevance. So our work and anything, happiness to the family, happiness to the society, anything and everything is centered around how we dispense our work and plan our time. If that is the case, then how do we do our work so that we tread slowly or migrate from the path of material life into spiritual life? That will be the attempt of this talk. So the question is, how do we address the 3Ds in our life? We have to ask, is our life filled only with desires? It's a question we need to introspect. Keep aspiring, keep expecting, keep wanting X, Y, W. Is our minds filled with desires only? Then we are definitely far away from spiritual life and spiritual pursuits. We have to accept it as a fact. Alternatively, can we prioritize our life as a life filled with duties. So, when we are in our work spot, in our workplace, doing our work with proper ethics and approach, the question we need to ask is, are we pursuing our work filled with desires? Or are we performing the work as a duty? So, this is a decision we have to take in life if we have to turn around from material world into spiritual. We may work very intensely with a lot of passion, determination, and dedication. But if the ultimate objective is to fulfill our desires, then any amount of learning Vedanta, which listening, hearing, reading, everything is good. It's punya, no doubt about it. But will not turn us around into this path of spiritual life. Alternatively, whatever work we do, can we do it as nothing but a discharge of our duties? So the first three Ds, desire, duty, and decision making, we have to decide whether we follow the path of desire or the path of duty in our workplace. Why this is important? Yes, there is no place for us in the spiritual world if we are not able to practice Satya and Dharma. When we say Dharma here, the ethics that is attributable to the work which is assigned to us, which we are doing. It is a contextual reference, not a proper scriptural reference. I need to clarify that very clearly. So, without Satya and without Dharma, we cannot perform our karmas, which is our work. So the terminology SDK, the first three Ds, desire, duty, and decision, is very relevant for us to understand and practice SDK in our life. Satya, Dharma, and Karma. What is the impediment? The impediments would be twofold. For those who are so blessed in their work spot, where they need not have to confront competition, they need not have to prove things minute by minute, they don't have to undergo stress, pain to stay on course, to establish something, then they are all blessed souls who don't get into the cycle of material race. They may still be doing work which may not form part of this material. They are indeed blessed if they want to pursue spiritual life. I'm not saying blessed in terms of material life, because it is a non-competitive material world is a slow world, a world which may be meant for people who don't want to compete. So, this reference is not with the material world, but they are really blessed. They have an advantage, a distinct advantage, and they are closer to, if they want to decide to go the path of duty, it is easier for them. So, moving out of these material challenges is not that easy for anyone of us. So this is one challenge. The second challenge is, as I said, those who are blessed, who don't have this, they will have to only make one decision in life, whether their work style should be filled with desires or filled with duty. That's possibly a milder task compared to the previous one. If you get into a comparison trap, if you get into a competitive trap, if you get into an aggressive, belligerent pursuit of work, then desire getting uprooted is virtually an impossibility in that race. Unless we uproot desires and convert them into duty, we cannot step into the field of spiritual life. Because when you perform your work gripped with desires, we will be unmindful when it comes to practicing satya and dharma, because success is the criteria there, not fulfilling our duty. So we will be forced to tread the path which may not always be grounded on satya and dharma. Again, dharma here is work ethics. Whereas if one starts to perform their duty, their work as duty, then there is no competition. There is nothing that needs to be proved to someone. There is nothing that you are seeking to achieve as a higher goal in life. But we will still be performing our work assigned to us by God. So when this change in attitude happens to us, when this conversion happens from desire to duty, in the absence of competition, in the absence of proving something, in the absence of challenges, the same work we do, we will be doing the work assigned in a best possible way as a duty. Then there is every possibility for us that we can be closer to satya and dharma, which are extremely essential for us to convert our material pursuits, our material life into a spiritual life. Essential ingredient. Now, if we choose to take this hard decision the right way, from moving from desire to duty, then scriptures say that's a perfect state of doing your work, doing your actions, because we can't remain actionless. That's something which repeatedly Bhagavan Shri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. We can't remain actionless. So, being active and being in action is inherent to a human being. And how do we do it? We do it as a duty. If we choose that path slowly and steadily, then whatever we do, a work done with desire leads to karma bandha. It leads more and more to attachment. Every work you do with passion, filled with desire, leads to karma bandha. We keep binding ourselves more and more in this material world. The rope gets tightened layer over layer. The same work done not with desire but as a duty becomes a karma yoga. The rope stops unwinding itself and discharges us out of this obligation to do further work. Doing a duty results in extinguishment of that assignment given by God to us. We think our senior gives us work, so and so gives us work, and therefore unless we keep performing, we may not stay. That's the challenge we face, and therefore we fill it with desire, we fill it with priorities. Instead, do the very same work as a duty. Then, instead of karma bandha, it becomes karma yoga and it gets discharged. Mind gets purified. Now, we have to necessarily elaborate this process a little further. One who follows the path of desire in doing their work, daily work, and one who does their daily work as a duty. The brightest and simple, straightforward, practical example is look at so many people in Shingeri Mutt, at Shingeri, performing their assigned work only as a duty. The person who performs the morning puja, the blessed souls who stand by the sides of Acharya, it's the same work for several decades. There is no promotion. They keep doing it purely as a duty. This is the example, inspiration we should have from a common. It's difficult if we say Acharya is performing it in a particular, Acharya is in a different scale. He's our Guru. So our comparison should be with fellow human beings. And these are live examples which we can see day to day in our lives. And you can see that in your own work spot. You can see people around you performing it as a duty. It's not extinct. Even though today world has migrated, most of us have migrated into the path of desire rather than the path of duty. The numbers are increasing there and becoming lesser and lesser here, no doubt about it. And therefore there is enough space for us to come back here. Now, if we pursue the path of desire, see, we can get into camps to learn Vedanta, we can read books, we can listen to talks. This is all punya. Without this, we could not have been here. But if ultimately our lifestyle is filled in a particular path, how do these things help us? All this is educated, imparted only for us to transform. Therefore, they say, if you move in the direction, if you do your work filled with desires, the first effect is the rope gets tightened, karma bandha. When there is more and more karma bandha, attachment to it, our wants and expectations keep increasing. This is the first effect. So, when our wants and desires, our wants and expectations keep increasing, and they don't get, see, the more it increases, it gallops, it multiplies, then there's a possibility that it may not happen on many occasions or at least some occasions. So, when desires don't get fulfilled, we get into the mode of anger. If anger intensifies, it transforms into jealousy. Because somebody is getting, we are not getting. Intensified jealousy transforms into hatred. And the whole world looks to us as a place of injustice because our desires have not been fulfilled. And therefore, the world has meted out injustice to us. And if we pursue this thought very intensely, it transforms into vengeance. Somehow I need to get this done. So we start fighting, thinking that injustice has been caused to us. So we should rectify that injustice and seek justice, and therefore we have a right to fight. If our fight or our challenges is rooted to anger, jealousy and hatred and vengeance, please take it. We are not going to succeed in that fight. And don't be under the impression that that fight is for a cause of justice. Because the presumption that it is injustice at the first place arises out of because we have desires which gets unfulfilled. That's the root problem. And fighting such things, for heaven's sake, Let us not call it as nyaya or a justified fight. There is a wafer thin difference between nyaya and vengeance. But the difference is distinct. And the path from there where you start is extremely different. Seeking justice out of an unfulfilled desire normally ends up only in vengeance. It doesn't reach the footsteps of nyaya or justice. And ultimately, what happens to us when we fail after a long fight? We are gripped with fear and we become cowards. And we start to shield our lives with asatya and adharma. This is the path which we need to tread if we perform work filled with enormous desires. There's no choice. The mat will get rolled in this form and we need to tread this path. People, you take Purana, you take history, you take life, real life situations around you. Are we to therefore conclude, are we saying, hey, come on, what are you saying? So you should not work, you should not aspire, you should not build a strong team? What are you talking? No, I'm not saying that. You can do all that filled with desires. But that whole world is a vicious world called the material world, giving you material wealth and material success. Staying there and keep peeping through the window to see what is spiritual life will not transform ourselves into spiritual beings. That's the point here. This is not a talk to dissuade people from fighting or challenging or being in a competitive spirit. No, not at all. This talk is not on that. If you want that world, then you can't be. You can only peep we can only be peeping that world through a window of material success and material happiness, and not through this. So if migration is required and if we are serious about it, then we should not do our work filled with desires. All right, what is the output if we get a lifestyle filled with duty? Performing duty. Performing our work diligently as duty leads to karma yoga, unwinding the tightened rope. Because this assignment has been given, let's do it. Next assignment is given, let's do it. Whatever God gives us, makes us work, let's do it with all the faith and spirit in it. So that we get it out. It's over. 4 things will happen, says our scriptures, if we do work as a duty. 4 things will follow suit, whether we like it or not. We will slowly tend to tread the path of Satya, followed by Dharma. Because you are performing it as a duty. There is no selfish motivation to acquire something. There is a selfless attitude to discharge and extinguish from that sea. So, there is more opportunity for us to speak Satya and more opportunity to execute our work on dharmic work ethics. If this too starts to happen in our life, we are guaranteed, we will be loved. We may be ridiculed by, he's a fool, doesn't matter. But we will be loved. For someone to be loved, that person must be an embodiment of Satya and Dharma. Otherwise, we can't love. We can be strategic, we can be in a relationship very strategically, but we won't trust that person. Trust. Love requires a lot of trust, and trust comes only when you practice Satya and Dharma. So we become a lovable human being, and therefore our heart and mind will be filled with love. So instead of filling our mind with the desires, this path of duty will erase that slowly and substitute it with love, universal love. And love leads to compassion. We would have been ruthlessly fighting with somebody in a competitive space. Few months later, if destiny blesses you to approach the path of duty, you won't do that. But you will be doing your work sincerely. A life filled with compassion makes you extremely dharmic and powerful. Because the basic root of dharma is karuna, compassion. Dharma starts to flow only from compassion. And we can't be compassionate unless our hearts, our mind is filled with love. And we can't be filled with love unless we practice Satya and Dharma. And we can't practice Satya and Dharma unless we do our work as Karma Yoga. These are the two broad verticals God provides us every moment to every human being. Whatever work we do, we have an option to do it in either which way we want. And that's how we design our life. Irrespective, so you can say there is so much of backlog of asanas pressurizing us to do this. Yes, it will drive you. It will drive us. And the more we get involved in desires, it's going to drive us nuts more and more intensely. So how do you reverse the process? There must be some reversal happening. Yes, whatever desire is already there, which is we are filled with, which we are trying to now meet it through our tendencies. Let's not add more. Let it get discharged. Discharge happens only when path of desire is given up and migrate into duty. Simple. Once we are able to migrate into this path of duty at some point of time, we need to keep checking ourselves with the following questions. The first question is, as human beings doing our work, we hate interference. We hate interference. We don't want anybody to interfere with our work. Therefore, the question we need to pose to ourselves is the source of interference trying to interfere with our desire or trying to interfere with our duty? So it's a very, very critical step we need to take in life if we are serious about spiritual life. I repeat it, therefore. We need to ask a question when we are doing solid work, extremely intense, passionate work for our employee or for ourselves or for a crown, for a sovereign, whoever it is. When we do our work, interferences are natural. So, what we need to identify, does it interfere with our duty, performance of duty? Or does it interfere with our desires, filled with desires? Then the guidance is this. This is what people say who practice Vedanta. If it interferes with your desire, take it as a blessing and allow it to pass, because that's a test. If it interferes with your duty, then stand up and resist, because nobody can extricate you from performing your duty. That's not good. That is something which we need to resist. But if it interferes only with your wants, with your aspirations, with your expectations while doing the work, allow it to pass. This interference is God-given blessing in the form of a test to see whether you are still sunk in the material world or in the spiritual world, or willing to go to the spiritual world. It's a test we have to pass. So this is one test. 2, are we too much concerned about the past and too much concerned about the future, and therefore passing our present moments not so diligently? This is one test. It says people who perform duty, people who perform their work as duty, will stay closer to the present. People who perform work filled with the desires will have anxiety syndrome based on past and an unknown fear over future, and will be grappling between the past experience and the future possibilities. So Vedanta tells, if you want to lead a good spiritual life, you have no control over the past, because it has already happened. What had happened cannot be recreated. Equally, there is no control over the future too. Can we plan our future to the last T? We normally plan a broad idea, what next. Can you plan it to the last minutest detail till it actually happens? Starting from the fact whether we will be alive tomorrow, everything is a question mark. In that scenario, if you grapple with the happenings of the past and the unknown fear of the future, then we are losing focus of the precious present, which alone is under our, we can't say control, it's under our capacity to utilize. Because nothing is under control, everything is only under God's control. But the capacity to utilize is something which the capacity has been given to us by God, to every human being, without discrimination. So if we use that space, present, staying closer to present is an inevitable requirement in spiritual life. And we can stay, once we practice Satya and Dharma, a life filled with love and compassion, fear will fade in our lives. Once fear and cowardice moves out of our life space, we will stop thinking about what had happened in the past and stop contemplating what is going to happen to us in future. Because we will stay on course. This moment is God's moment to us, and let's serve God's purpose in the best fitting way possible. We travel from moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. It's a cycle. And it will lead us only because there is a guidance to us. The beacon light will start showing you the path if we stay on course with the present. It's a second requirement. Third, in spite of world acknowledging us, in spite of getting accolades across, at some point of time we will realize all this is myth, and we'll finally settle down with our family. Each one settles down at some point of time. What is assuring is our family life. So, there's nothing wrong about it. Feeling comfort, feeling secured with our family is the biggest blessing one can have in life. But this is also part of material life. So if we are stuck with that happiness and do not want to move out of that, we may give up everything else at some point of time. It's natural. But we won't be able to give up our family relationship. We'll cling to that. If that is going to be our structure of life, then there is a challenge. How long should we be staying there, gripped with relationship issues? Which means we are again not traveling in the path of spiritual life the way it is intended to be after some time. See, this is not something we can recommend for a 15-year-old boy. No. It all happens because I understand the group is 50 plus, 60 plus. Then the last two, which we need to find and test. When we are in active work, when we are in active stress and pain, have we ever thought, my God, see, relaxation, going for a holiday, going for some sort of some alternative spending time, don't mean that, because those are all transient. Because you may enjoy those moments, and when you come back, you will get the same stress. The stress will be, it's like when we bathe, the clothes will be somewhere. Once we bathe, the clothes will come back to our body. So it's like that. So this so-called relaxation, well, it's ephemeral. It's okay. People who love it should love it. So we don't mean that relaxation. Have we ever thought, oh my God, can the mind rest? It's not sleep, active rest, not passive rest. Have you ever thought, oh God, bless me with a mind with some active rest? Have you ever thought? If these symptoms start cropping up in our life, that's a good indication, because the mind is slowly preparing itself to become meditative. Tapas. Tapas is a very, very big term at the moment. So I'm not going to that. But oh my God, can I relax? Not doing anything, not going to some alternative spots, not doing anything, and allow the mind to remain blank for a while. Do we get to that state? If this is going to happen to us, if the frequency starts increasing, that's a very good indication that you have been doing your work as a duty, and God is therefore hand-holding you to take you to the path of dhyana at some point of time. It's a good indication. And of course, the fifth, the last one is, when we go to Acharya next time, are we in a frame of mind to pray to our Acharya as a sheer surrender of our bhakti, without any wants, without any expectations, and without any desires? See, this is planned last because this should last the longer in our thoughts. Without Guru's grace, there is just no hope or scope to progress in spiritual life. Without Guru's blessing, it just can't happen. However much we may learn, however much we may read, however much seminars we may attend, however camps we may conduct, transformation is possible only through divine grace, which comes only in the form of a Guru. Therefore, a willing Guru, a Guru who is capable of transforming each one of us like him, which we see every day at Sringeri. The beauty of this Guru Parampara is Mahasannidhanam, Jyeshta Mahasannidhanam. Gurus prior to that, and our Sannidhanam, keep saying this in most of the Anugraha Bhashanas. What is that? Here is a Peetam which can give something which rare, something which is impossible. It can give you bliss. Because the gurus who are tapasvis staying in this throne of transcendental wisdoms are sakshat muktas. So it's only a mukta who can make another one a mukta. So this transformation is somebody is willing to give the transformation for which we should prepare ourselves. And the test is when we fall at his feet during the darshan time, do we still have wants, desires, and expectations? Then Guru will continue to bless us. He is there to protect us like our mother. He is the spiritual mother of us. But he may not prefer to handhold us and take us into the path of spiritual life because we are still filled with desires. So, these are the symptoms which can occur to us when we migrate our work, culture, and ethics from a desire-filled work to a duty-filled work. In fact, Gautam wanted me to talk on Sannidhanam. It's a blessing to speak about Sannidhanam, especially after the Kashmir visit. So, Vardhanti is on the 21st August, and therefore we are blessed to deliver a separate talk on Sannidhanam. Therefore, that request all of you to watch that talk, because we can't speak about our Acharya in 5 minutes. It's not possible. So, looking forward to that opportunity. This talk will be put by this Shringeri Guru Bandhava channel in the YouTube, either one day before or one day later. And we are going to deal with how the bhagyam which we had with Sannidhanam, the 3 full days in Kashmir, and the divine personification of Acharya has to be spoken. And we will speak on that occasion. I once again thank Gautam for this wonderful opportunity and Murli sir for facilitating the idea of alternative option of talking through the video, even though this is not a preferred mode. And with these few words, let me offer this humble talk once again at the lotus feet of Jeshta Mahasannidhanam, Ansannidhanam, and my profuse namaskaras and pranams to my Manasiga Vedanta Guru, Shri Jnanananda Bharati Swamigal. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmatacharya Pariyantam Vande